And hello, everyone, and welcome to the McBiz radio show here every Wednesday at this bat channel, this bat time. How are you, Frank?
Fine.
Was that not the best show on television back in the day?
Oh, yes.
It ranks among the best television shows ever produced, I think.
I always enjoyed it. I always look forward to it.
How can you not like Batman the television series?
Right.
You're un-American if that's
Holy
true.
cow, Batman.
That was just the best show ever.
Yeah. Yes.
Mark, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
You're no stranger to the microphone.
No, I've eaten a few of them in my day.
Yes,
so
as have I.
yes, but yeah, it's it's funny when you think about it.
Wait a minute. This is Mark Bresco. All right. Now it seems associated with your voice.
Oh, okay.
All
So
right.
it's now official.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. Some of the old shows, it just is amazing that about how those shows took place, and you see some of the repeats of it nowadays, and of course half the stuff is no longer politically correct, and you can't do it all. And I saw Robin Williams on a clip from when he was first on the Johnny Carson show.
Oh yeah.
And you can't get away with half the stuff he says now.
Can you imagine a producer coming to a movie studio this week with the script for Blazing Saddles?
Right. You can't
There's
do it,
just
right?
no way it would happen.
How about the TV show F Troop?
Yeah, F Troop, the same thing with the
Yeah.
Hakawi tribe. Yeah, that was. I mean, I just watched so much television as a kid, but
Right.
like you could not make half the stuff. And
Yeah.
I understand we're evolving as a society, and that's I'm sure it's an overall good thing. But come on, I mean, people have such thin skin. I think it's like, I mean, what I love about Mel Brooks, he made fun of everybody.
Right.
He didn't just make fun of one. He just made. I mean.
Right.
Nobody was safe with Mel Brooks,
Right.
and Robin Williams as well.
Well, that's like as you mentioned, I do a couple shows here on WSTU periodically.
Is there a show you don't do on WSTU?
Wednesday
I think I have been on
and Monday.
I actually have been on every single day of the week. We used to do I used to do Monday, Tuesday, and then I did I used to do Monday, Tuesday, and then I did a Thursday, Friday, and then I'd started out with a Friday where we did 4 segments. We split the segments up into 4 days, so we used to do those, and then we dropped. I gave one of my slots to another show on WSTU that was doing some financial planning. The Ray Lucia guys, they took over my slot in the morning. I gave it to them. And we went to an afternoon thing, and then Frank and I did the Friday evening. Frank and I and Cindy Reynolds, we did the Friday evening show where we used to call it Seinfeld for radio. It was a show about nothing.
Right.
We went, and that's kind of all of my shows. They're a show about nothing. We go, but I tell you what. Frank Nezapel is the best straight man in the world.
Oh yeah, he is. Yes, no
He
doubt.
hasn't figured it out yet, but he is fantastic. He's just unbelievable.
I've only gotten back to doing this since we've changed the new timing, and I was able to fit my schedule back in the day. But when I used to do it with Frank fairly regularly, it was the best. It was just so much fun. You would say something, and Frank would just be like deadpan. It's like, yep, right along.
He just walks right into it, and then you just boom. Okay, let's move on. That was an easy one. And then, but it's a lot of fun. He's a good guy. I'm talking about you like you're dead, but you're still here. There's some days
maybe I should die.
We're not sure,
All
but,
right.
but anyway, but yeah, it's kind of funny. It's kind of fun to talk about some of the old days. And
Did you ever want to be an architect?
did I ever want to be an architect?
You pretend to be.
So I didn't, but I do look a lot like George.
How are
Why
you?
couldn't you make me an architect?
How are your soup recipes?
I always wanted to pretend that I was an architect.
I never wanted to be an architect. You can't have it.
Is this going to be the summer of Mark? That's what I want to know.
Is it? I don't know.
Remember the summer of George?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Last summer was supposed to be the summer of Mark, but anyway, no. I've been a part of with WSTU here for a little while. WSTU has been a big part of Martin County Business Exchange, so that's been kind of fun. I got my first taste of radio before Martin County Business Exchange, but we got them in, and they've been on for a number of years now in this afternoon slot. And it was funny because the afternoon slot was originally not here, and we made it. Remember,
you made it. Yeah.
Well, we made it.
Yeah.
We decided that there had to be a market for shows between 5 and 6. And so I love drive time, and that's what the Friday show was. We were a drive time radio show. We did weather, traffic, we did whatever, and it was a lot of fun. But and so originally, yeah, it is. And originally the morning shows were, we had Tommy and Steve and all that in the morning, and then those would get over, and then we had the morning slots that were there that you could do 9 and 10, but then nobody did anything in the afternoon that was formal. We had all kinds of programming.
This is formal.
Well, this is as formal as it gets for WSTU. This is as good as we get. But anyway, it's kind of fun, and it's local, and that's what I like about it. It's what MCB is about. It's local. It's networking. A lot of people don't understand WSTU, but a lot of people out here listening do, because they are the people that make Stewart go. And WSTU is really a lot about networking on the radio.
Yes.
When you think about it, I've had people say to me, you get the advertising guys say to you, yeah, what's your listening audience? How many people are actually listening? And what's the size of the audience? Well, you know what? It really doesn't make any difference, because you're not looking for people who are listening. You are looking for people who are potentially buying. They're buying your product, right? I mean, people don't advertise because they want people to hear them. Right. They advertise because they want to sell stuff. And so what I used to say to people is, would you rather have 10,000 people listening, of which maybe 2 might have a need to buy your product? Or would you rather have 1,000 listening who are what I call influencers, people who have other friends who come to them for advice, and who maybe influence another 5 or 10,000 people, and those are people who actually need your service. So that influencer, and that's you people out there that are listening now, they're the people that when somebody comes to them and says, hey, I'm looking to switch CPAs, or I'm looking for a CPA, do you know of anybody? And they say, yeah, I know this guy, Mark Breckbill, and you might give him a try. He sounds like he's a pretty good guy, or I use him for stuff, or I know him from other activities, or whatever. And so that kind of networking on the radio is kind of unusual, and it's only available in small town, and Stewart's a small town still from that standpoint.
Is, actually, yeah.
So it's kind of fun, and you guys have all been here a long time. John, you've been in the
My family's moved here in '78, so we were here. There were, I think, 3 traffic lights between here and Fort Pierce on US 1, or something along those. I'm not exaggerating too much when I say that.
No, you're right.
There was a handful.
Yeah,
and I've watched Stewart. It was funny because when I first moved down here in '78, I was 16. I'm like, oh, great. There was nothing going on. Grew up in the suburb of New York City, out of Jersey, the suburbs, great place. And then I thought to myself, and I was smart enough to realize, I said, when I'm, 35, 45, 50, this will be a really cool place to live. And it is, but that transition time between your 16 and your 35, I mean, I raised my family here. It was great. It's been a great place to live, but it's certainly a different animal now than it was then. Stewart's downtown's happening. It's kind of funky. It's a cool place to go. There's lots of water. There's music happening. There's art gallery. I mean, there's cool things now that there were not cool things so much in 1978.
Right. Yeah. The place was dead downtown. Yeah. So were you the token Greek at the time? Is that
no? I think the guy who owned the Flamingo Diner was here before us.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's a diner, there's a Greek involved.
That's right.
Isn't that the truth?
There was 1 or 2 before us, but yeah, we were.
I used to love their rice pudding.
They had good rice pudding. Rice pudding. I used to work that was one of my first jobs as a Greek diner in New Jersey. I was a dishwasher. I worked from Friday night at 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. on the morning, Friday and Saturday morning. I worked 10 hours shifts, made $2.50 an hour.
All right.
Had more spending money back then than I do right now.
Doing dishes is how I paid my way through college. I had a Pell Grant, partial scholarship, but as anybody knows that has ever been in those things, I did have a loan, but they didn't loan you enough money to get through your first year. So I had a job working in the dish room of the dorms, and I worked 40 hours a week. Believe it or not, I worked probably about 4 or so hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I worked like 12 hours Saturday and 12 hours Sunday. And so I used to always have to work the football games. That was always horrible because Saturday was steak night at the dorm. And it was also drunk night. So steak and drunks don't really go together very well. And so a lot of those drunks would try to see how much steak they could actually put in a glass without breaking it. And to make it fit tight, they always had to add, it seemed, a lot of ketchup so that it would fit in there. So I got to clean all that out and do all that stuff. But it gave me spending money. I managed to make it through school.
I was great. I had 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. I had walking around money. I worked all weekend, but
and it gave you an appreciation for not doing that.
Well, I also, yes, I did that for one summer. And that's this one summer that I was in an advanced Spanish class in high school. And the only other dishwasher in that class, in that shift, was a guy named Nelson from Venezuela. So for 10 hours a night, 2 nights a week, Nelson and I would speak Spanish. And my Spanish went from very marginal in the beginning of the summer to completely fluent by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
So I went into my Spanish class the next semester when the fall started, and it was one of those classes where the teacher would only speak to you in Spanish. So it was like the 4th year Spanish, whatever it was. And so she, came at me with, how was your summer? And I just, completely fluent, explained to her what I did. And she was like, what did you do all summer? And I explained to her in Spanish that I was a dishwasher, for 20 hours a week. And I spoke with Spanish with a guy named Nelson. So it was actually productive. I made money. I learned Spanish.
See, pretty cool.
I forgot everything since then. I can say, like, where's the bathroom now? But other than that, that's about it.
I took French in high school, 3 years of French, but I made the mistake of my, let's see, 3rd year of French. I decided to take my 1st year of Spanish. I figured, they're pretty close together. They, how hard can it be? And but the problem was that my French teacher, she was very, very good in French, but was not very fluent. She didn't have a really good accent,
right.
And she kind of struggled with the speaking because she had learned a lot of it reading and writing. And so I could read and write French pretty fluently, but never really could speak it well. And so what happened is, but my Spanish teacher was fluent in Spanish and French and German.
Oh, wow.
And he actually taught the German class and he had taught the French class. So I got just reamed every time in French,
right.
every time I screwed up one of the words, And so it was kind of a hilarious thing, but he was an interesting guy, big, heavy set guy, but he subsequently, believe it or not, ended up taking the Spanish club, which I was not a member of. They would every year go to Spain, and he actually died climbing a hill in Spain.
Oh, wow.
But anyway,
if you're gonna go, that's not a bad way to go.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. He was not too bad. But Frank, he didn't have the opportunity to learn any of that. Now, he did have jobs when he was younger, but most of those involved smelling paint. And so that's why he's kind of funny sometimes, like, have you ever noticed how he'll go into the closet back there where the extra cans of latex are, and he just kind of zones out periodically. But I don't know, it's kind of like a drunk who drinks some scope every now and then, and kind of gets a high. He's kind of same thing. He just goes in there, smells a little latex, and the next thing you know, he's good to go.
Sure. Oh yeah. Nothing like
He's got that glazed look kind of right about now.
It's hard to tell because that's just how he is most of the time. But it's hard to tell. Sometimes you can see the spark in the eye, and sometimes, it's pretty far away. But anyway, so you were a paint guy, right?
Well, yes.
Mr. Mezapal?
Yes.
You
grew up doing that as a teenager. I mean, that was my spending money, is working in Dad's shop. So originally at 9 years old on a Saturday, he would drag me over to the shop, and I didn't want to be there, but he introduced me
didn't want to be there.
No, but he introduced me to the kids because it was a downtown store.
Right.
Above us were apartments in the building. Right.
Okay.
And there was a lot of inner city kids, and there were Asian kids, black kids. There were a lot of kids parents were from Appalachia. Right.
Okay.
And so we all
That's
got
kind of foreign, right?
Yes. I didn't understand what the heck they were saying half the time. But anyways, we played stickball in the alley behind my dad's shop. And
now, where was this again?
In downtown Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they have full baseball fields down there. There's nobody lives there anymore. They just it's just it's
a lot of room now.
Not a lot of room. Yeah, that was pretty pretty much the day.
But yeah, so I gained an appreciation. But even at the age of 9, he had me pumping paint thinner in the back room, 55-gallon drum with a hand crank. You know,
explains it, right?
Yeah,
that's what he just. John and I just looked at ourselves. Like, yeah, that kind of explains everything you need to know about Frank.
Young.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's young.
I got more paint thinner all over myself and on the floor than I was able to get into the containers. But my dad was happy because he knew where I was and what I was doing.
Plus, he wasn't paying you anything, probably.
Child labor. That was before child labor. Child labor laws don't apply to your own kids, right? So
I learned how to rifle the register.
There you go.
Found out where the nickel part of the drawer was, and would feed the Coke machine. And so
now, which Coke machine did you have? Did you have the one with bottles or the cans?
Yes, it was the bottle, the glass bottle,
the 7.5 ounce bottles.
Yeah, those short little.
Those were the best Coke can. Those are the best. That's the best tasting Coke ever.
Yes,
you can't.
That's the one with.
Prove me wrong.
That's the one with the real cocaine in it, right?
I think that was formula changed well before that.
Yeah, was it changed before
I
that?
think so.
Yeah, just a few years before that. Yeah,
but the 7.5 ounce bottles were the best Coke ever.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I know. Now we could talk about taxes, and if anybody wants to call,
that was your morning show.
Yeah, we did that. But
God.
we could do that tonight. 220-9788 220 WSTU, and I'll give you a synopsis of the morning show. Don't wait till the last minute.
That was it.
That was
the message. Yes.
That was the message this morning. Don't wait till the last minute.
We should start talking about the Batman reruns again and Coke bottles. Just
I think
focus on that. Old TV shows, old radio shows.
Hey, it's okay with me. I'm old.
The Good Humor Man, stuff like
that's
that.
Right.
And
I'm good with that. I think that it would be kind of fun to have one of those old ice cream trucks, and I'll just kind of wander around the neighborhood.
Did you guys actually have a milkman in your neighborhood?
We did. Yeah.
That's why my brother doesn't look exactly like me.
And did you have a milk chute?
No.
We had milk chutes. It was the darndest thing.
Those are called milkshakes. You're from Detroit.
Don't even know what that is.
He's got it screwed up.
So it's a box with doors on each side, one exterior, one interior.
Right.
And so mom doesn't have to be home. She would put a note inside the milk chute. It's just a space the width of the building. And, I need eggs. I need, a gallon of milk or whatever. And so the milkman would come around to the back of the house, open up the milk chute, and then, fill it with whatever, she would want, and there'd be an envelope in there, and she would put the cash in there for later.
Oh, that's cool. No, we just had the box. We lived in the suburb, so we had the house. It wasn't like an apartment. We had a house, so we had the box in there. He would bring the milk, and then there was the bread and pastry. The Entenmann's guy too would come around.
We had Charlie Chips.
We didn't have Charlie Chips in Jersey.
Charles Chips. He came by and dropped off the cookies and the potato chips. So it was always a good thing. But it was. We had the milkman, and we had the little glass bottles, and all it delivered fresh every day.
We were pretty inventive kids because we'd occasionally get locked out of the house. So what do you do when you get locked out of the house? You get the smallest kid in the neighborhood to shinny through the milk chute.
Say that we didn't do that.
So in other words, you got Frank to shinny through the milk chute. No. He spent a lot of time going through milk chutes. That's why he's so familiar with them.
Wow. And you know how you open it up from the outside? You bang it with a broom handle, and it would eventually take the lever and pop it open.
Oh, well, there you
go.
See,
early training into B&E.
But that's right. Is it a B&E if it's your own house? I don't know.
Probably. Your parents won't admit it.
Are you on the deed?
That's right. It's not your house.
Legally, probably not.
Okay.
It's amazing all of the important and useless facts that we know as a group here.
Yes,
I mean, we have so much information that we can share with people that I'm sure that there are tons of people out there that are just dying to hear the next stupid thing that will come out of our mouths. And I think there's so many that could come out.
There's lots of useless information.
But I think that we ought to occasionally plug Martin County Business Exchange. So since they're kind of paying for the hour, but or is it a half hour? I guess I'm going to stop it.
Where they pay for it. Well, actually, they pay for the hour. The Martin County Business Exchange pays for a half hour, and the radio station donates the other half hour.
That's pretty much the way it works.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that, sort of. But it's kind of. But interestingly enough, you guys have been doing the show here now for what? How many years have we been on in the afternoon with Mark?
Oh my goodness, as long as I can remember. I mean, because I started with the radio station almost 10 years ago or
I was
more.
going to say it's probably at least 10 years.
Yeah, and was it Tuesday? Was it originally the Tuesday and then switched to because Wednesday used to be the Republican Club. They used to have their show,
right?
And
yes, Treasure Coast Forum.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then I remember it started. I knew it wasn't originally
For
on
scheduling reasons. We needed to move it around, but yes.
Well, that's because our members are too stupid to remember that they got to do the radio show. So they tried to make it so it's the same day that you have to speak at the club in the morning. So since our meeting's in the morning, they can at least remind people, by the way, you're supposed to show up tonight.
And still
it doesn't happen. Now, in their defense,
we're all busy. Don't say
Yes.
we're all. I would say they're busy and harried.
Oh, okay, distracted.
Distracted.
We'll say
they're so busy doing their business that stuff happens.
Yes, with all of the business we do in Martin County Business Exchange, there's all of those referrals. We're always constantly busy. But by the way, for those of you that were expecting potentially Eric Keene with CNW, he did not forget. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, he's doing a big to do.
Yeah, he's got something with leadership or something like that. One of those.
He'll be here next week.
Yeah, he'll be here next week. He's taking my slot for next week because we figured it was probably appropriate that since April 15th is coming up on Monday, that me as a CPA, that I should come in here before Monday,
right,
and talk about Batman and
milk
delivery
milk
and Frank Sniffin paint.
Yeah.
So and we got most of that stuff in. So so far we're on a roll.
We got our high school language
Yes,
histories.
we've got all that stuff down.
What other useless stuff can we talk about?
I don't know, but we can talk about we could talk about the fact that
let's talk about the fact that it's time for a station break.
Oh no, we don't do those.
But we do on this show.
Oh, I don't. What
you don't on your show? We do.
Oh, that's right. Okay, we'll break.
Okay, and we'll be right back. So stick with us.
you really like.
No, that's awesome. From Batman to Bullwinkle.
Yes.
That was also a fantastic show. You watch that now, it still holds up. It is so well
Yes.
written.
Yes. Well, it was written for adults as
And
well as for
you know,
kids.
that was the first case of Russian collusion.
I think so. Boris Badenoff and Natasha.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we know that was the
Fantastic.
case. See, we were ingrained in that from a very early age. So now we know that there was actually a conspiracy.
That
and
was
it
my-
was Boris
that
and
was-
Natasha.
That was one of my favorite.
That was my
shows.
second favorite cartoon.
Yes.
First one, of course, is Looney Tunes. You can't
right.
be Looney
Yeah.
Tunes. But
Yeah.
yes,
Classics.
those-
Yeah.
I have three sons from 22, 28, and 31, and I've turned them on to that stuff, and they're huge Looney Tunes fans. And
I like that. I actually, my favorite was probably Casper the Friendly Ghost.
really,
Well, and I'll tell you why. My
There's
always a
you have to.
yes, we have to.
Okay.
So
we got 27 minutes to kill, Frank. We got to do
right.
something.
I can kill a lot of time.
Oh,
So
you're killing me.
my mom and dad decided that I needed to learn to swim. So this is how the story goes.
So they threw you in the deep end.
Well, that they would have, but what they did is they sent me to the Y on
All right.
Saturday morning. They sent me to the Y, and so there was a couple different alternatives. There was my swimming lessons that I could go to learn to swim. I found out at a very early age that I don't float, and so what happened is I sank, and so I didn't really like the swimming lessons much. But
Well, Mark, the whole idea of the swimming lessons is to learn
Yeah.
how not to sink.
It-
It's sort of
it didn't
that's
work.
why you were there.
right, and I will tell you, years later, I got my
Tough
red.
student. Tough student.
Right. Years later, I got my Red Cross swimming badge, right? But the way I did it is that you had to. I had a private teacher, and so we had to have a final exam. So I went through this whole thing. Well, I literally could not swim. My feet sink, so I go straight up. And now I can float on my back if I keep my feet moving. But you get these. I hate these people that tell you all you got to do is move your arms, move your feet. It's easy. All you can do is tread water. No, I mean, I was going like a rock, right? So I could, I could swim, but I could hold my breath. It's hard to believe now, but I could hold my breath for a long, long, long time. So I could swim the length of a pool, all down the sides, in, back and around again, without ever taking a breath. All I had to do was pretend like I was taking a breath. So I would. So one of the final tests was you had to swim around the pool, and you had to flip over once on your back and swim on your back and then flip back over. Well, I could do that holding my breath because I got a breath when I flipped over on my back. And then from then on, now going underwater, boy, I could go underwater pretty easy, but the other part of it was you had to tread water for like a minute and a half or something.
I remember that.
I mean, I couldn't tread water for 30 seconds. So no matter how hard I tried to swim, and I was moving my arms and legs as fast as they would go. But anyway, so the deal was, she said, okay, here's what I'll do. We ran out of time today. So if you promise me that you'll come back for the treading water, so that I can test you on the treading water, then I'll just give you your swimming badge now, and you can come back later.
Because last you saw it.
This is last you saw me. I never came back. But now going back to my youth, so I'm in. I'm
still trying to thread this together with Casper the Friendly Ghost.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
You got to go a long way with
Wow.
me. My train goes a long way off the track.
Oh my God.
But anyway, so I couldn't swim, and I hated swim lessons because it was very frustrating. So so I decided I could do one of two things. I could skip my swimming lesson and watch Casper the Friendly Ghost, because we had cartoons there at the Y, and I could do that for about 2 hours. And then I could do free swim. And then when my mom said, "Did you go to swimming?" I could say yes. And she said, "Did you practice your swimming?" Yes, I did. It was in the shallow end during free swim, but I'm not going to go there. So that's how I liked, and that's how I grew to love Casper the Friendly Ghost, because it got me out of swimming lessons. It could have ended up me drowning, and I would have been Casper the Friendly Ghost, but it ultimately got me out of it. And that's what I did every Saturday morning when I was in about 5th grade at the Y in Decatur, Illinois.
That was a long way for that story.
It was a long way, and it wasn't worth it, but
Well-
that's okay.
Can you swim now?
No, I cannot. I still can't float.
Really?
No, I'm telling you, it's legit. I had a,
This is
It- it's-
ironically, this is another thing that Mark and I do have in common.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Yes.
While he's telling this story, I'm thinking to myself, oh,
Frank's having flashbacks.
Well, look at us. We've got
Yeah.
these muscular bodies that just do not.
That's true.
hold much
if
water.
you have more muscle than fat, it's harder to float. Absolutely.
That's true. That's true. Now, in regards to that, my roommate in college, he was a physical education major, and he lifted weights. He was a competitive weightlifter. The guy was ripped. I mean, he was huge, but he could not swim at all. He couldn't float. And as part of his degree in physical education, he had no intention of being a swimming coach,
Right.
but as part of his degree in physical education, he had to swim. And so with them, they had to do a 3-minute tread. He had to tread water for 3 minutes. And I tell you, I went there, and talk about a guy that had the most intestinal fortitude of anybody, and who was as strong as you could. He literally fought to stay up above the water for 3 minutes, and he made it. He almost drowned doing it, but he made 3 minutes so that he could graduate. Otherwise, he would have spent his whole time as a physical education major and not got a degree because he couldn't tread water for 3 minutes.
Wow.
And so he was an amazing guy. I was just amazed that he could do that. But anyway, so it was interesting. That's my swim story. We won't go any further than that.
So 2 out of 3 people in this room cannot swim.
That's right. And Frankie, can you swim?
No. Frank,
no.
Yeah,
Well,
just-
I barely.
Yeah, barely.
People have watched me swim, and they say, "When are you going to learn how to swim?" So I would not call what I do swimming. Okay.
Now I want to know.
But I did do adequately enough to pass.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's all that counts.
And I had to take the in high school. I had to do, for the phys ed class, we had to do the swimming test. I had
Right.
to jump in the deep end and swim and do the treading water, which I hated. And
Pick up a hockey puck at the bottom of the pool or something like that. We had to do something like that.
yeah,
No, I could do that. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Well,
So-
but can you get back up? That was the
Yeah, no,
that's-
no, I couldn't. I just had to keep going. I always wanted to scuba dive, but you actually had to be able to swim for that. I didn't need any of the weights. I was down there without any of the weights. I
Wow.
didn't need that. But I do want to. So just out of curiosity, since we're sitting here just kind of chatting. So the question that I have is, who's the most boring of the three of us? I mean,
well,
Frank is
probably
Frank
me.
is an expert on paint.
Yeah,
I'm a CPA,
right.
and
I know-
you move shit. I
yeah.
mean, move stuff. Sorry
You're
about that.
killing me, man.
I know.
Here comes this beads of sweat.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. You're supposed to be paying attention over there, Frank.
Oh my
Push that
God.
button. Yeah, that stuff's not supposed to.
Oh, there's the
Oh,
ball.
Here we go.
we're gonna hear
All
it
right.
now. We can bet that we're going to hear it now.
So a little moving music.
Is
there
that my
for-
my
Yeah, that's
intro,
on-
my intro bumper?
that's your a nod to you in the work that you do.
Yes, moving is not an exciting. Although there are some interesting stories. I've told some over the years at the Martin
yes.
County Business Exchange meetings, and there's been some interesting things. Well, you go into people's houses, open up their doors, go in the closets. You just look at everything to see that's moving, and it's just hard to not.
Right. Especially when you start digging around, underneath this, behind the sofa.
Yeah,
and
there's been some interesting things over the years.
personal accessories, and yes, all kinds of
A
things.
few episodes of Hoarders would have.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, there's been a
yes.
few of those.
Would have been cool, huh?
Well,
I-
it's actually kind of it's kind of depressing to see
Yeah.
that, because there's obviously something going on.
Yeah.
And you're just overwhelmed with all the stuff. It's weird.
Yeah, just some people just can't throw stuff away.
Yeah.
Oops, I almost said it again. Frank, pay attention. We had. I do want to make a comment relative to our opening on this. First of all,
we should go back to cartoons. It's much safer.
yeah, you never know for sure. That we. I did want to put in a plug. We had a great fundraiser. Didn't raise any money, but we had a great fundraiser for Kiwanis this summer at Memorial Park, and we had almost all tribute bands, and we had let's see, I think we had the Billy Joel we had a Billy Joel tribute, and we had who else did we have up there? We had I think we had, wait a minute, let me think. Besides Billy Joel, we had Bruce Springsteen. We had Bruce Springsteen. I think we had did we have we had a Donna Summer tribute band, which was a new one. I don't think it ever got off the ground, but it was a new one that was just getting started. That was pretty cool. And then I think did we have I forget who else we had as there was just a kind of a cover band. And then we had was it let's see, who was the ones that the guys out of Boca, they were, and then we had Kiss. We had a Kiss tribute band that was really good. Fantastic. And then we also had a there was another band, and I'm trying to remember. It was it was Aerosmith. I think it was the Aerosmith tribute band.
Okay.
I think. But anyway, it was pretty cool. And we had some of the, I mean, anybody that had an opportunity to be, it's a shame that we had it in the summer and that everybody missed it. I mean, we had some rain, and, we probably got 300 or 400 people. You could see literally the best tribute bands around. And for, I think it was like $10 a night, $20 for both nights. And actually some of those bands have played around town for big money. I mean, I know the Billy Joel tribute, Turnstiles, was just at the Lyric not too long ago. And Kiss was over at, I think they were over at Terra Firmata recently. That was pretty cool.
Yep.
So there's there's a lot of good music around town. And there's a lot of stuff going on. You talk about, and that's something I would like to talk about, because I
finally run into it. Okay,
well,
good.
I'm a big fan of music, and John mentioned early on about the fact that there's a lot of stuff now going on in town.
Yeah,
and there's
That
a lot
was
of things happening that wasn't there before.
1978,
It wasn't there in 78, 79.
Although the Caboose was there back in 78.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember that? Remember the place?
Sure.
That's the first place. Actually, my dad heard about it, and he goes, "Whenever you go downtown," he goes, "I don't want you to go there." Well, so of course, the first place I go to
is there, right?
The Caboose, and
Right.
I'm underage at this point. I'm 16,
right?
and the drinking age then was 18. So I might have peeked my head in there before I was able to. I might have.
I did the same
Something
thing,
like that.
but that was a long time ago.
But yes, it's much better now.
But I do want to, I want to give a shout out to Ron Hart, because Ron has done a lot for, even though he's not a member of Martin County Business Exchange, Ron has done a lot for trying to promote music in downtown. And some people say, well, he's brought a lot of out of town people in, but the thing is, that's made it better, because there's now a lot more venues that are playing music. I mean, almost every single restaurant has some sort of music now. If they're going to keep up, they have to. So that's made a lot more places for
more competition.
Well, not only more competition, but more places for local artists to play.
Well, actually, I may have to disagree on that one, because there used to be more places for bands to play.
Yeah, bands.
That's like
true.
the Ashley had a place. There was bands
Right.
down at Pirates Cove. They still do bands at Pirates Cove occasionally.
Yeah,
I believe.
they did a big summer thing. Ron was involved there, and there's a guy out of Brevard that comes down and does some shows down
But the
here.
Ashley was the place to play. My
Yeah.
old cover band played there a couple of times back in the day. But the bands back then were SWS was a really good
Right.
band. Boss Groove was another great band. The Jukebox Band. Those were the
Yeah,
three.
whatever
the
happened
three
to
top
Boss
bands.
Groove? Are they around?
Boss Groove kind of disbanded. One of the guitar players, good buddy of mine, Wade, moved up to North Carolina. Then they replaced him with another good guitar player, and that ran for another couple of years. But then, bands just, that was a 7-piece band, and you try to keep a 4-piece band together. A 7-piece band is like,
that's hard.
It's like herding cats.
Yeah,
So,
it's hard, and it's hard to make enough money. I mean, a gig that you might make $500 or $600 for a 4-person band isn't a bad deal, but for 8 people is not really that good a deal.
Boss Groove got the money though, because they packed them in. They would pack the Ashley in, and people wouldn't mind paying $5 to walk into a cover charge. Now you talk about a cover charge, people like freak out. Oh my God, no, they don't even want to pay $5.
Oh, $5.
It's like, oh my God, I can't pay $5.
And
that's really,
and that's the trouble. It's made it very difficult for us to do certain things like that, because all of a sudden, people are used to getting it for free.
Right.
And that's kind of a tough thing. Like you say, they can go to almost any bar and they're getting it for free. The bar's paying for it through the meals and drinks and all that kind of stuff. And so now when you have to go and hear a good band, like I said, it was $20 for $20 for 2 nights for 6 top drawer national tribute bands. And yet, we just couldn't get the draw. Because there's so many opportunities out there.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that going on.
Sure, there's a lot going on.
But, but we've had some really good performers locally. I know when I was doing the 4th of July, and I kind of loved that because it was a lot of fun. And we had a number of people that played there that actually ended up going on and doing fairly well. A couple female singers that did pretty well. And some of them went on and did some stuff in some of the, America's Got Talent and, The Voice and all that kind of stuff, which, and finished pretty high. So it was kind of cool, but it was kind of neat the way that, those type of things are out there.
Yeah.
And I wished, and I'm glad that, that there is those opportunities, even for some of the bands that we're talking about that are maybe not local, or most of them are at least regional. A lot of them are West Palm or, in that area.
That's local enough. Really.
Yeah. Local enough. Yeah. And it's great that there's an opportunity to make money doing that kind of thing. It's so hard to make any money. And, and some people have it as a hobby, and some people, are trying to make a living out of it. But it's amazing, and it's amazing the kind of differences of the groups we have around. And
remember Craig Worley.
Lots of
he used to be part of the Dreamers. That was a 14-piece band orchestra.
Yeah, a formal band orchestra. And then Ben Prestige has done a pretty good job, and he's made a little money, and he's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
the Nouveau Honkies are from here.
Yeah, Nouveau Honkies.
They're doing real well.
And then so there's been a couple that have done pretty well, and it's tough, once you go out and you go to I think Jess Lee's done a decent, she's done some stuff. She's in Nashville now. I think is going back up there. And there's
a guy named Billy Gilmore that was from here that is touring nationally in his bluegrass stuff. So in fact, he's up in High Springs this weekend. There's tons of good local talent.
We need to have a bluegrass festival. I was talking about that this weekend. That's the one thing that we have a lot of blues, and we have a fair amount of rock, but we don't have a lot of bluegrass.
Bluegrass is great.
I know, and it'd be kind of fun. We got some people around that can play, and then we got some people that could come in and play. So I'm
a rock and roller, but man, I love bluegrass.
Yeah.
So the harmonies are great. The guitar playing is great. The musicianship is just outstanding.
Right. I got a friend. Her dad's what is it? Her dad's brother or uncle? I forget which one it was.
If this is bluegrass, are they interrelated somehow?
Yeah, yeah, same thing. Could be the same. No. So what happened is it's sorry. It's interesting because he learned how to play the banjo from listening to Scruggs on just listen to records. He'd go into the basement, he'd listen and keep playing and playing and playing, right? But what was interesting is he ended up having an injury in the war, and he lost his 2 top fingers which would be tough for a banjo player, right?
Right.
So they actually put on, fake fingers, but they couldn't bend. They were locked and they couldn't bend. And so he learned to pick the guitar. Pick the banjo with his bottom two fingers. Now think about that. And it was a unique sound that ended up producing almost like a stereo concept, right? So, he played up in the West Virginia area and things like that. And lo and behold, this kid named Merle Travis came to him every day to have him teach him how to play the banjo. And so he taught him how to play with the bottom two fingers. And that's why he has a unique way he plays. And he actually taught him how to play banjo. And
I did not know that. It's a good story.
It was a good story. It was a cool thing when you look at some of that. And there's a guy, and that's why, and of course he's Merle's famous. Well,
see, that just shows you, like, if you have the huge desire to do that, like, there's two other examples I can name that are sort of like that. Remember, Django Reinhardt, gypsy jazz guitar player, had his hands burned in a fire, and basically he plays with two fingers because the other two are just and if you listen to Django's stuff, it's hard to do if you have 5 working fingers.
Yeah.
And he's just amazing stuff. And the same thing in a different genre, Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. He lost, I think, 2 or 3 of his top sections of his fretting fingers. He had plastic tips made, but he wanted to learn how to play guitar. So in order to do that, he had plastic tips made, and he tuned his guitar a little bit lower to make it easier, which gave him that really heavy sound. And he's known, in the heavy metal rock and roll world. Yeah. Everybody knows who he is.
Pretty famous.
So, if you got the desire, I've seen stuff on YouTube where like guys are playing guitars with their feet.
Yeah.
He's holding a pick in one foot and chording with his other toes. It's like, you know what? If you want to do something, you'll find a way to do it.
And it's amazing. It's amazing what these people do. And they were all self-taught. That was the other thing that's amazing, is that they were all self-taught. But it is kind of cool. And speaking of unusual stuff, and since we're talking about music, Ron Hart's strum sticks. Have you seen that? Have you seen those things?
I have. Ron and I are good friends. So yeah, we're friends on Facebook, and I watch his stuff. He's doing his drum stick sessions.
Isn't that pretty cool?
Good for him.
I know that's pretty. I told him we got to have a strum stick concert. At some point, so that we can feature some of that. But I like it. I like these guys that are out there kind of getting some stuff done. And I like people that are continuing to do the stuff that they like to do, whether it's a hobby or it's a way to make some extra money. But and I like the fact that Stewart's a home for that. I've been a big proponent of that. That's one of the things that, talking about some of the more business stuff I do, one of the things that I do promotionally is I work with a lot of organizations, Stewart Main Street and others, to try to promote activities and try to get it, try to keep music here and make it so that we have those activities.
We do need another venue for bands.
We do.
And
you want me to tell you where that could be?
Sure.
So
we have 3 minutes left, according to Frank.
Okay. So here's the deal. The design committee at Stewart Main Street has been working on a redesign of Seminole and Osceola out past City Hall, changed the parking structure a little bit, system through the parking lot, and reorganized the parking lot at Mulligan's on through to behind the Stewart feed. Right. That will be a huge grass area, grassy knoll, a big concert area. We'll seat about 2,500 people.
Okay.
With a stage down on the water, and it'll be covered, so you could actually, semi-covered with some of the flags and stuff like that.
Right.
And tied into the Flagler place, there's a provision for a splash pad out there and playground stuff down the road. It is one of the coolest things. And the city has put that together, whether there's going to be the money for it, but it is one of the coolest things you'd ever see. And it keeps all this green space and all this outdoor activity in Flagler. It doesn't develop the end of Flagler. Everything stays green. Everything stays
They have
fun.
something like that at Wellington. Have you seen the Wellington Amphitheater? It's a really cool place. It's a big band shell, big well place. It's got a green room. It has seating for about 2,500 people. It has the grass section, and they put on great shows there just about every other week or something.
Well, that's what we need. It's funny that people are talking about Rock and Riverwalk and, it's free music. But the trouble with Rock and Riverwalk is that the venue is actually too small now.
Right.
You can't get more than a couple hundred people there. If you try to do it anyway to do fundraisers there, it's too small to do fundraisers.
And it's a logistical nightmare for the sound and light crew.
And for the fencing guys.
Well, not so much for the fencing guys. We don't have to go up and down the stairs so much.
That's true.
It's the sound guys that are just I've had friends, a lot of my friends are working in the sound. It's like, oh man, I would not want to do this gig.
I know,
But
it can be tough. So it's going to be really cool. And hopefully we'll see that come to fruition.
That'd
It's
be cool.
another thing that'll be neat in Stewart. And by the way, if you need any tax advice, give me a call.
Yeah, right. We didn't really talk much about the McBiz stuff, but listen, Martin County Business Exchange people is a great resource to find local businesses that have been here forever, that are reputable, that can refer stuff that you can count on. And I hear the banjo music, so I guess it's time to go.
Yeah, it's a 1 minute lead.
We got a minute lead. Okay.
So good. Yes.
So that's, I tell you what, this is appropriate background music for this group right here.
Well, and next week,
is this a deliverance concert?
yes, next week, if you want to talk more about cartoon trivia and try to stump me, you can,
Yes.
because I don't think you'll be able to.
Good.
And if you ever
All right.
want
It'll be our version of Stump the Chumps.
and if you ever want to see what this group really looks like, you can always tune in to WSTU1450.com.
Right.
And you can actually see.
I dressed for radio today.
I know you are. That's why I wanted people to look, call in. They'd really see.
Going to
how
the
bad
gym
it
right
is.
now.
And Frank, it's always good to be on here again with you, because
Yeah, that's fine.
I love to take a shot at you.
See you next week, folks.
All right.
Signing up for Medicare for the first time or eligible first